I'm Jeff Hunt. He's Bill Thorpe. It's Friday. $710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show where you get both sides. And boy, text messages are hot right now.
Yeah, they are. Love you guys.
That's fun.
I can't keep up. This is hard.
Jump into the conversation. It's on a lot of things. Kristi Noem, the rating of her tenure as head of DHS. Do you think Trump was right in firing her? We spoke with Lauren Boebert, jumped into health care for illegal immigrants conversation. That's particularly hot on the text messages right now. So feel free to jump in and be a part of the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. Now is time for the news.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Hey, good Friday morning. 33 with some snow in Denver. Look at that. 35 in the Springs, a little drizzle there. Expecting highs in the upper 40s today up and down the Front Range. News sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning. For a new home, heating, and cooling system, contact your Lennox dealer, Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at pastorcamp.com. Conditions apply. See dealer for details. Our top story.
No federal tax dollars for illegal aliens. Health Insurance Act. What a name.
Congresswoman Lauren Boebert on with the fellas last hour. She's introduced a new bill to ensure federal tax dollars don't fund health insurance for illegal aliens.
To amend the Affordable Care Act, which, of course, has proven to not be affordable when you don't have taxpayer subsidies. And this bill shouldn't have any issues because Democrats say that if you were here illegally, you were not getting taxpayer benefits. And we know that is not true.
She says some states, like Colorado, of course, have attempted to expand taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal immigrants through creative use of federal funding.
Just can't agree with, Madam Secretary. Are you still running those ads?
No, Senator, I did not have anything to do with picking those contractors. No politicals at the Department of Homeland Security did.
I understand. Are you
Mayor
still running
officials
those
followed
ads?
the competitive bid process for
Are you
that.
still running
Everything
those ads?
I think the ads are due to end here in March. I think with
Kristi Noem and Senator John Kennedy. Noem is out as Homeland Security Secretary. She was fired by the president on Thursday, wasting $220 million of taxpayer money on commercials didn't help. Picked to replace her is Oklahoma Senators Mark Wayne Mullen, and he still needs to be confirmed by the Senate.
If you support me, if you don't support me, regardless of what your thoughts are, I'm here to enforce the policies that Congress passed, and right now I'm part of it, but once I make that transition, my focus is to keep the homeland secure. That's going to be my focus, and we're super excited about this opportunity.
And Jeff and Billy asked Congresswoman Boebert her thoughts on the firing of Kristi Noem.
I don't agree with letting go of Kristi Noem before Mayorkas has been held accountable. Pam Bondi is now coming before the Oversight Committee, and I am going to talk to her about just that. Mayorkas let in at least 10 million that we know of illegal aliens through our southern border, failed to have operational control, even though he has been in administrations where he has been charged with having operational control of the southern border. So I would have loved to have seen him be held accountable and even prosecuted for his actions before we took action against Kristi Noem.
She said this was a tough one, but also doesn't like wasting taxpayer money to create new positions for people like the Shield.
Of the Western Hemisphere.
Bum, bum, bum. Superheroes. but her hair is going to look really good. She has great hair. Looks real. I like the little curls at the bottom. They're nice. The president says, I like when my wife does that, you know. I give her high marks for that. The president says a ground invasion of Iran would be a waste of time. He said Iran has lost everything they can lose, and the U.S. will keep up with the intensity of the strikes. The president said he wants to see the Middle Eastern country's leadership structure fully taken out, and he has an idea who he would like to be the next leader.
And I'm once again calling on all members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the military, and the police to lay down their arms. They're only going to be killed. And now is the time to stand up for the Iranian people and help take back your country. You're going to have a chance after all these years to take back your country.
Iran's foreign minister says his country is confident it can counter any potential U.S. ground invasion.
In an interview with NBC News, he said he believes the operation has been a failure for the U.S. so far.
It is clear that the U.S. Has failed to achieve its main goal, which was a clean, rapid victory.
The foreign minister said his country has never had a positive experience when holding talks with American officials. He adds there's no winner in this conflict, and their goal is to resist against Israeli and U.S. forces, which he said they've done. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
Police investigating an officer-involved shooting at an Englewood hospital. The Cherry Hills Village Police Department says that an officer shot someone inside HCA Health One Swedish around 5:45 last night. No details about what led to the shooting or the condition of the suspect released. A memorial service for the late Jesse Jackson set for later today in Chicago. Former Presidents Sotero, Clinton, and Biden expected to attend. Last night, Nuggets leading the Lakers in a great game, 114 to 111, just under 30 seconds to play.
10 to shoot, 27 seconds to go, one possession game. Jokic spins. Jokic scores!
Huge play for Nikola Jokic, another triple-double. 28 points in the win and the 120 to 113 victory. And we have NHL tonight, the Avalanche and the Stars, as Colorado hopes to keep up their streak and up it to 4 straight victories. 35 in the Springs with a little snow. 33 in Denver, snow coming down. Also in northern Colorado. That's the latest. I'm Blake Olson. More of the Jeff and Bill Show ahead on News Talk 710 KNUS in Denver. And now on AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you hear both sides. We are the Jeff and Bill Show.
We await the next storm system to affect Colorado. It's coming into Idaho and northern Utah early today. Ahead of the system, it's going to be mild. Colorado Springs, Denver, and all points in between will see temperatures well above average in the middle to upper 60s. However, towards evening, we may actually see a few showers developing, and then overnight, some areas of rain and snow showers, and winds will swing around and come in from the north. As the system approaches, a cold surge comes down the front range, so temperatures will trend colder tonight, much colder tomorrow. Tomorrow, there's a chance of snow all up and down the I-25 corridor. We're looking at about 2 to 4 inches in most areas along the lower elevations. More could fall on the north end of the Palmer Divide between Denver and Colorado Springs and in the foothills. It'll be much colder tomorrow. Highs mid-30s, lows tomorrow night, low to mid-20s. Travel concerns developing tonight and Friday. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show where you get both sides. Now, this was one of the hottest topics debated down at the Colorado State Capitol, and it had to do with what they call captive audience pricing. Golly, talk about a socialist term. All right, it has to do with food items sold in places like Ball Arena, Mile High Stadium, county fairs, hospitals. The problem they ran into is when they started to try to address captive pricing, audience pricing, it is lots of places. And I find this fascinating because this is, I think, going to become a bigger and bigger issue. It falls into healthcare. It falls now into food. When central planners come upon us and say, that price right there is too high, we need to step in to fix it. Okay, we're expecting the government to set prices. Is that the role of government? Is that good for government to do so? Well, he sat on the House Judiciary Committee that heard this big debate, and he joins us now. Matt Soper, one of the longest serving, if not the longest serving Republican down at the State House right now, joins us via Zoom. Good morning, Representative Soper. Thank you for joining the Jeff and Bill Show.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. It's great to be here.
So am I right in saying you're the longest serving state Republican down there right now?
That's correct. I'm the only fourth-term Republican in the State House.
He has survived. All right, so you heard the arguments around captive audience pricing. I think this is something that progressives are going to continue to push. I was shocked to see 3 House Democrats join with you in shooting this thing down, but give me a sense of the arguments that were made around captive audience pricing.
Yeah, so the arguments, obviously against the bill were that here you are paying like $400 to go see a Denver Broncos game, and then you're complaining about $10 or $15 beers. You went into the stadium eyes wide open that you were going to spend a lot of money to be entertained. It's a free market. The vendors need to be able to recoup what it costs to rent their stall at the stadium. And so even a few Democrats said, hey, that's actually beyond what you would expect. I mean, there is no right to travel. There's no right to be entertained. It's a privilege. It's something that when you have extra money, you're able to do. And it's the free market at work. And the arguments on the other side were that you're trapped. You can't readily leave. If you do leave, you can't come back. And so you're at the beholden of whoever is selling you food or drink in that venue. I mean, this is central pricing on steroids.
That's exactly right, because who determines what a price is, right? Like, I feel like I want to pass around to all lawmakers and maybe all Coloradans Thomas Sowell's Basic Economics, because something or somebody determines what the price is of an item on everything from hot dogs at Ball Arena to the buttons on your trouser. Somebody is determining what that price is, and what you have happening, not just with, hot dogs at Ball Arena, but healthcare, education, is you have more and more people going, the state should determine that. I have a right to this item, and the state needs to step in when it's too expensive to try to either provide a price cap on it or subsidize it in an effort to try to force the price down. But it never works when the state steps in. And I thought you did a good job trying to explain this to people, that the free market is the best to determine what that price is. Explain more.
Yeah, I mean, as Adam Smith said, I mean, there's an invisible hand that sets the prices, and that equilibrium is found. The captive audience bill sought to regulate the invisible hand. And I believe this is only the start of more bills to come and to be considered in the legislature in the next few years. If they can do it with a captive audience, why not do it more with, say, healthcare? I mean, you could move that down into rent or even housing. I mean, it's so easy to say that something's expensive and the solution is to regulate the price. I mean, this bill said that you would take a survey of the average prices of the county in which the venue is located. Well, for example, for Denver International Airport, which is in the city and county of Denver, Denver's pretty expensive. So I guess that means the airport gets to continue to have higher prices. I mean, they just kind of missed the logical nexus, which is there's already competition at play. And even within these venues, if I'm at the airport and I don't want to pay a $5 Starbucks coffee, there actually happens to be other coffee shops at the airport. They may not be the same brand name, but I can walk a few feet further down the concourse and find another cup of coffee. And guess what? It is a little bit cheaper.
And what I think people miss, particularly young people that are drawn to these lawmakers that go, this is too expensive, elect me, and I'll get in there and I'll start to fix. Okay. The power you have to say no with your dollar. That's an incredibly powerful force in the free market ecosystem, right? And Billy and I were talking about this at Mile High. They're now at a place where they're offering $5 hot dogs, $5 beers. It's kind of a place you go and everything's kind of $5, right, Bill? That's from what I understand. Or not beer?
Not beer. No.
Is that still more expensive?
Oh, yeah. Beer's still more expensive. But yeah, there's a small shop inside of Broncos Stadium that does $5 for it's popcorn, pretzels, basic nachos, and a hot dog. Yeah, beers you can get as well, but those are more expensive.
So you have the ability to say back to the vendor, no, it's too expensive. I don't want to use it. I'm going to go use my money elsewhere. I'm not going to use my money at all. But did you guys get into this in the discussion of all of the complications of getting food into these venues? It's not just selling a hot dog on the side of a street. You have to follow certain protocols. There's already regulations, for instance, on, I'm sure, the water, temperature of the water that's cooking the hot dog. So you have all these regulations just to get the food inside these venues to begin with. That's going to drive up the cost. You want the vendor to be able to make a profit. Now they're motivated to make sure that the food is of high quality, that they go through all the existing regulations to get there. You want financial motivation there. You start to take that away, you're not going to have vendors there. The quality's not going to be as good. The motivation's not going to be as good. Did you get into just the complications of getting food there in the first place? Matt Soper.
Yeah, that was a level of detail we really did not consider you have to get past security. You have to plan well in advance. You may have limited cooler space in some of these stalls at arenas or concert venues. We didn't necessarily discuss that. We did discuss the hardships of, for example, a small town every summer has some sort of festival. Every town across Colorado has that. And it's usually a fundraiser for the local Chamber of Commerce or some other charitable entity. And if you take away the ability for profit to be made in food and beverage and other goods that are sold at that fair or at that festival, all of a sudden, you're just depriving that town of a very crucial fundraiser, and everyone who walks through the front gates knows that's a fundraiser for that community. And we just said it defied logic in that sense.
And the amount of central planning and the energy and the size of government that's to grow to look at all these different aspects is going to continue to grow. We're talking with Matt Soper about the effort to price fix what were called captive audiences. Now, Matt, the reason I wanted to bring you on is I think this type of mindset infiltrates every aspect of the way progressives think about government, that it is their job to step in. Now, I'm going to take you into maybe a more contentious area. Now, they're claiming that there are rights, for instance, human rights to health care, and that the government has to step in to fix prices for health care. What's your response to that argument?
Yeah, I also happen to serve as the chairman of a hospital board. And, when I hear liberals say we want to step in, fix prices in healthcare, reduce, the cost of healthcare using government regulation, the first thing that goes through my mind is already a large portion of our state are government payers. Medicaid, Medicare are government payers. And I just think to myself, that just means you have to cost shift over to the commercial payers. And then there's a disconnect from reality in this state, which is we can only regulate a small portion of, for example, the healthcare market. The rest is up to the federal government. And I have colleagues who seem to think that if you continue to push on the small segment that we can regulate, that for some reason the other part of the pie that we can't regulate won't be affected, which is not true. Prices go up. I mean, that's the end result. And so every effort that I've seen by the socialists to try to lower healthcare prices has actually done the opposite. It's resulted in healthcare prices going up. And you either create arbitrary shortages, so prices go up, or you increase the cost of insurance, which also results in prices going up on the other side of the equation, on the insurance side. So the fix is not government stepping in. The fix is actually government finding ways to get out of the equation, to be able to step out of the way. I mean, we've totally screwed up healthcare in this country by getting into the healthcare market.
But what would be your response, though, to their argument that if we hand it over to corporations, they're going to drive profit off of what is a necessity for somebody, which is healthcare, and they're going to benefit driving up prices there. And so can't the government step in with the power they have to keep things more affordable? What's your response to that?
Yeah, my response to that is quite easy. The profit motivation is always going to be there. I mean, that's an inherent human concept. I mean, you'll never take that away. You also have to have the ability for, whether we're talking a nonprofit hospital or a for-profit hospital, the ability to have a bottom line. And that gets reinvested back into the system. The idea that we just want to take away the profit and have government subsidize it, that's also ripe for abuse as well, because that means that someone in central planning gets to choose what you're going to prioritize, whose health care you're going to pay for, and it's not going to be everyone's. I mean, we know from other nations how this works, and it doesn't work out well. The idea of having a free market for healthcare actually means that there can be true competition. I mean, if I could actually go out and fully compete, I guarantee you prices would come down. And a lot of it gets tied up in the red tape that we've built up in this healthcare bureaucracy.
Now, Representative Matt Soper joining Jeff and Bill live. I want to talk to you about the way we're seeing profit motive and also how the insurance market functions. I feel we are making a mistake to believe that the insurance market functions like most other markets function inside of a capitalist system. The reason why insurance, in my mind, is the single product that I can point to in which profits increase the less the consumer uses them. The entire incentive inside of insurance is to prevent actually paying for health care for anybody at all, because you make more money when that happens. You don't open a restaurant and say, if nobody walks through the door, I'm going to be filthy rich. We don't open a car care clinic and say, if nobody comes here and brings me their car, man, am I going to retire sweetly. But that is the profit motive inside of the health insurance companies. Are we making a mistake assuming that that marketplace will absolutely do what it normally does in the free market?
Well, that's a great question. I will tell you that, I've thought a lot about this over the years. It would be better if, at least in the health insurance space, it was more of a co-op model to where the investors were the actual ones who were the customers of insurance, so that the motivation to also pay healthcare claims came back because that was also an investor back in the insurance company. That being said, insurance will continue to fight claims, as you said, just because that's their bottom line that they're looking for. A lot of this was driven by the Affordable Care Act that actually capped how much of a margin that insurance companies could have. They couldn't have their administrative costs and their bottom line be over 15%. That alone has also been very difficult to handle because what's ended up happening is they just grew the entire pie of healthcare. So they just made everything more expensive to have their 15% where they could find their bottom line get bigger. And that's where we really saw the healthcare spending start to grow on steroids, was very soon after the Affordable Care Act was passed.
I like that answer. Now, Representative Soper, I want to go back a little bit to the issue with stadium and the captive pricing. I've got a couple of questions on that one for you, if it's okay. The first one is, if we were more concerned about free market and pressures inside of those captive audience events, which are things like stadiums, arenas, would we allow more external food to be sold? Is that part of the problem creating the price pressure inside of those captive audience events? Your opinion?
Yeah, that's a great question. The trouble with external food coming in, it's kind of like going to a restaurant and bringing in your own sandwich and drink from the outside. If you end up getting sick, it's the restaurant who still bears the liability. And so if you're able to bring in food to like a stadium or a concert and you end up getting sick, you're going to sue the concert venue, or you're going to sue whoever the promoters are. And that's just not fair. That's not right. They need to have some ability to control that, because if you walk into the controlled area and you buy your hamburger or your hot dog and your Pepsi or your Coke and you end up getting sick, then you have a legitimate claim because they didn't do their job in maintaining food quality and food safety. But if you're able to bring in your outside food, it just means that there's a liability risk that is very difficult for the promoter or the owner of the venue to handle or control for.
That's a good point. There may be some things about, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but if the guy came in and I thought that he was bringing in food from outside and is claiming he got sick based on stuff inside the stadium, the first thing we ask for, I think, is a receipt. What'd you buy? But I like the point. I like what you're saying, and we are an overly litigious society. I want to go one more further with you, and this is the idea of taxpayer-funded event spaces. I'm looking at that big, giant Mile High Stadium that was funded by taxpayer dollars. A new one is not going to be, so it would be outside of this example, but City and County owns Red Rocks as well. If those closed event spaces are owned and or funded by taxpayer dollars, does that change, in your mind, the rules about captive pricing? If the taxpayers are already footing the bill to build Mile High Stadium, why then do we have to pay as taxpayers a higher set price inside the stadium? Does it matter?
Yeah, that's I've thought about that as well. Just the legal analysis would be, the taxpayers have owned, built places like Red Rocks or Mile High. They lease those venues for a limited time over to people like the Denver Broncos or to whoever the concert promoters are at Red Rocks. And they get to own not own, but they get to control the space for the time that they have it for. And if you enter that property, you have a privilege to be there without, being considered a trespasser. That's the strict legal analysis. In terms of should the taxpayer who helped pay for the venue be able to bring in outside food or drink, you have to go back to the liability side. I think that's very difficult for the promoter or the person who's leasing the space to be able to allow, just because we do like to sue a lot. In terms of, what can the taxpayers do to push back? Certainly, like the Denver City and County can absolutely say to whoever the person is who's leasing, the Denver Broncos, for example, we don't want to see prices over, 10% average of what it would be on the 16th Street Mall or 16th Street, since that made a big difference. The person who's leasing the space, either they would agree to that or they wouldn't get the lease. That's really just how it works at the bottom line. And I would say there could be pressure for Denver City Council to do something. I don't necessarily know this is such a complaint that legislators should be taking action. And I don't even believe this is the appropriate role of government by any means for us to step in and help people pay for cheaper drinks and sandwiches at these venues. I mean, I believe most of my constituents would find it appalling that we're even debating this. Most of them are trying to find how they're paying next month's rent, much less trying to figure out how to go to a major sporting event or a major concert. They're spending hundreds of dollars for the ticket, and now you're telling me that government should step in and not have you pay $10 for that beer. I mean, it's mind-boggling. If you have the money and you want to use your discretionary cash to be entertained, to fly, to do things that are more luxury that you don't have a right to, that's something that many Coloradans don't get to do. And they don't even get to enter the captive space because they can't afford even the ticket price to get in.
You know, Representative Matt Soper, I love the way that you ended that right there, because I think it's a fantastic way to point out the fact that the Democrat lawmakers, given a $1 billion hole in the state budget and given complaints by constituents across the political spectrum about affordability, problems with education, problems with roads, energy prices, the Democrats, to their credit, they got on top of their white horse. They put on their really pretty big white cowboy hat, and they said, stadium prices! That is the thing we shall vanquish.
But I do think that this is, they want to try to look at affordability, and this is something that people are frustrated about, and they're trying to address it. So but it's becoming with the socialist mindset of the government stepping in. And I do want to clarify, because we're getting lots of text messages here about the lawsuit. I think what Representative Soper is talking about with regards to suing the venue is, you guys know outside where oftentimes they're selling burritos? Like the guy from a cooler is selling a burrito.
Oh, yeah.
And you take it
See
in.
him all the time.
I think the lawsuit is what Soper's talking about. You could correct me if I'm wrong, Representative Soper, is that if you allow lots of different vendors in without much oversight on them, and they're selling stuff in the venue, and you got sick because you bought a burrito from a guy walking up and down Mile High Stadium that wasn't regulated, wasn't a part of it, you could sue. But just bringing in your own burrito, for instance, you brought from home, I don't think would be grounds to sue Mile High. But do you want to provide some clarification on that, Representative Soper?
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I mean, that's really what I was talking about. I mean, you buy your burrito from the guy outside the stadium, you walk in, you get food poisoning, and your first thought is to sue the stadium. The stadium needs to be able to have some sort of control over what's being brought in. And I know it may sound harsh and unfair. I wish we weren't a litigious society, but the person who controls the venue space needs to be able to have just a little bit of protection there, or a complete waiver of liability if you bring in your own food. I mean, that's the solution right there.
There you go. Representative Matt Soper represents the Western Slope. Just his district's like a donut. It's awesome. I was looking it up the other day. It's like everything around Grand Junction. Grand Junction, somebody else's district. But that's his district. And Representative, we sure appreciate your time today, and thank you for your years
thank you so
of
much.
service down at the state capitol. By the way, you're moving on to other things. You're running for election for something else now. You want to tell people briefly about that?
Yeah, I'm running for Delta County Commissioner. Want to have the opportunity to take the experience I've learned at the state level back down to my home county and really be able to push back on some of these policies more from the county level, which I believe is a position of strength.
And the commute is a lot shorter. All right, Representative, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Best of luck on your race for Delta County Commissioner.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, we'll continue. Feel free to jump in on the conversation. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line, 720-819-5115. More of the Jeff and Bill Show to come. You're listening to us on 710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. We'll take your calls next. This is where we hear both sides. We are the Jeff and Bill Show.
710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range, this is the Jeff and Bill Show. And text messages are hot. This is where you get both sides of the issue. 2983 saying stadiums do have an affirmative defense. You can't just sue because you got sick from egg salad at a picnic at the city of Denver. But I think I could absolutely see grounds for a lawsuit at a place like Mile High if you just allowed, Jose and his burrito distribution operation inside the building. You just allowed anybody to sell. So that's the regulations to make sure that the only people that are selling is going to drive up the cost. That's probably why the hot dogs are more expensive at Mile High. It's also a premium seat. You're not just eating a hot dog in your home. You're eating the hot dog while you're watching the Broncos. That has a benefit in itself. It can include the cost there. But if you just bring in your own food, as Matt Soper clarified, then, yeah, there's no ground to sue there. 8422, he's absolutely correct. The government shouldn't have to worry about how much we pay for nachos and beer. There's so many other real issues that need to be addressed. Bill was bringing that up too. But, look, these socialist Democrats are running around going, we're going to reduce affordability. We're going to make things more affordable. We're going to reduce prices. And they're running around everywhere. And for a bunch of people that live in Denver, yeah, it's expensive to buy beer at Ball Arena. So they're going, we're going to go change that.
But the other part of this is, what is and this is why I believe it is a complete dumbassery by the Democrats. What are the total percentage of their constituency that attends games and concerts at Ball Arena? There's a lot of us that do, but the percentage that do it regularly. And I think that's kind of the issue, is they're solving a very finite, concentrated problem and trying to claim a win on affordability. No. Solve affordability for the larger scope of people, because you were not elected to make it more affordable for anyone attending Ball Arena, going to Mile High, or going to Red Rocks. That's not the affordability argument that everybody's making. When you're hearing things in electoral cycles about affordability, how many of these people go, I can't pay for the stuff at the concerts? No, they're talking about groceries and gas and other stuff, people. That's why.
0864 texting in. This is the problem with all the fair wage pricing stuff. In the end, it's the owner who takes all the risks, holds all the licenses, provides all the jobs, and they should be making more than others. And in fact, they should be making a good profit from taking all the risks. Everyone else could just walk away whenever it suits them. Owners are stuck figuring things out regardless of the situation. Great point. 0864. Let's go to the phone lines. Dave and Golden. Good morning, Dave. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, guys. I have I retired from a big hygiene company and did venues at the Coors Field and Mile High and everywhere, Ball Arena. And the one thing I will tell you is that a vendor has to start, if they're a food vendor, they're starting at a commissary outside of the stadium or auditorium. They're bringing their food in, so they've got transportation. So they're paying for the commissary, taxes and space fees. They're paying for transportation to and from. They're paying to store their prepped food, or they need a freezer or a refrigerator underneath our feet, and then they bring it upstairs to the malls is coming to mind, but I know that's not what they're called, to sell to us. So their costs of this are far exceed what Jose on the street is doing with his burritos. And so plus they got to go through all the and I can I used to put together these sanitation manuals for food inspectors, health inspectors to go through. There is so much complexity to this, that if you're going to that venue anyway, suck it up and pay the $10 hot dog charge because you're already going to the venue. I mean,
well, and how much does the peace of mind come into this, right? So you're getting to eat a hot dog, watching your favorite musician play. You have the peace of mind that it's going to go through all the quality you just talked about, Dave. The fact that we're going to allow a central planner down at the state capitol to step in, evaluate all this, and then determine what the right price is? Give me a break.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a son who's got food poisoning from a piece of uncooked chicken from a street vendor. So that you don't want that. You don't want that kind of risk. Not when you're going to have a good time like that. So,
Dave Golden, I appreciate the perspective.
Yeah, I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, giving you insight into just how complicated it is just to get the food there in the first place.
That's why I should be able to bring my PB&J inside.
I'm
know
okay
my
with
PB&J
that.
is fine.
I'm totally fine for that.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll continue. Let's talk the gun room, folks. I've gotten a chance to know Wayne and Susanna at the gun room. Delightful couple, great family. Love the Lord, love this country, love the Constitution. And I want to be direct for a moment. If you care about freedom, real constitutional freedom, now is the time to act. The gun room has been Denver's trusted firearms dealer since 1982. And they have the widest selection of firearms in Colorado with over 1,000 in stock at any given time. The widest selection of firearms in Colorado. And folks have texted in saying they visited the gun room, and the vault room is like a museum. Even if you just love looking at old guns, dueling pistols from the 1700s, for instance, they have them there. The gun room buys, sells, and consigns all firearms, the vintage, modern, hunting, tactical, and they do it the right way. With knowledgeable staff who actually care, they help families navigate gun collections after losing a loved one. With heavy, restrictive gun laws looming, more red tape, and more hoops for law-abiding citizens, the smart move is to buy now while your choices are still yours. And instead of giving your money to big box chains, support a local family-owned shop that's been fighting for responsible gun ownership for over 4 decades. Visit denvergunroom.com or call 303-237-1300. That's denvergunroom.com, 303-237-1300. That's The Gun Room, a Colorado original. More of the Jeff and Bill Show to come. Phone line's hot. Lee, Paul, you're up next. We got one open line. Give us a call at 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Capitalist Law text line, 720-819-5115. More of the Jeff and Bill Show on 710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs. This is where you get to hear both sides. We'll be back in a second. It's the Jeff and Bill Show.
710 KNUS in Denver.
And on AM 1460, FM 101.1, The Answer in Colorado Springs.
All along the Front Range. This is the Jeff and Bill Show where you get both sides. We're discussing an article from CPR. The $10 stadium hot dog in Colorado lives on as an effort to prevent captive audience pricing meets its demise. And you're going to see this more and more from socialists. They do this to their electorate. And it's not just hot dogs at the stadium. They do it with healthcare. They do it with education. They do it with housing. They do it with everything. They step in and say, you know what? You're paying too much. And I am going to fix that for you via central planning and price caps. I mean, you see it with Mamdani doing it with rent fixing in New York City. The solution to your affordability problem is me telling the free market how much they can charge. And in every aspect, it complicates and ultimately drives up the cost of what they try to price fix. Let's go to the phone lines. Lee in Denver. Good morning. Lee, you're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. What's on your mind?
Okay, little food for thought. Since this person brought up Red Rocks, you are actually allowed to bring in personal snacks, non-alcoholic beverages in plastic, Nalgene's, Camelbacks. Fruit and vegetables must be cut up and in plastic bags. They're very food-friendly and very non-alcoholic drink-friendly. They're not gouging you. Okay?
Yeah, and I love that. And that was kind of my question, Lee, the idea of how does it impact if the taxpayers either own, operate, or even contributed to the venue? Does it change that perception? And I think that's part of why Red Rocks is so friendly. Just on a personal note, though, I've always found it weird that you had to cut up the fruits and vegetables. I just thought that was
because
weird.
they don't want you like throwing tomatoes at the musicians or something.
I don't know. I couldn't figure it out. As if because if you let me cut up the apple, I just got more stuff to throw. It's smaller.
No, whoever answered. I don't know. This is my first time calling.
Oh, thank you.
I don't. Yes, but this is close to my heart. So, yes, it's because people have thrown things at artists, and it's not all shows. And every now and then, the same thing. If there are certain shows where they make you take the cap off your bottles of water, like you can bring in multiple, and that's because they don't want you going in there and throwing water bottles. But it's just an interesting, kind of, I think that they deserve to make money. I'm kind of in favor of that. I mean, because they either have to hire Aramark or Sodexo or whoever.
Yeah, and it costs them more to run that,
Exactly. Red Rocks, the city's not making that money. Yeah. Like people, I mean, maybe they're making some money off the merch or not. I don't know. I have no idea.
Now, we got a question for you. Now, I appreciate the food and the food item because I know that, and I'm a guy that has gone to Bare Naked Ladies concert and seen and been there with the Kraft mac and cheese boxes and seen those throws on the stage. So I've been there. Now, Red Rocks, sounds like you're a Red Rocks fan. For you,
I am.
What is the best show you've ever seen at Red Rocks?
Oh, my gosh. Well, that's a hard question because one year I worked 148 shows at Red Rocks.
Ooh, so you got something to pick from.
Whoa!
So what is it? What is it? I'm so jealous. I've been to more than 148 shows at Red Rocks, but I haven't worked them. So what do you got?
I worked at Argus, and that's how I saw so many shows.
Nice.
They're all, first of all, I like more shows than I could even believe. My favorite was, it's up there with Tom Petty or Dolly Parton, or Paul Simon was good.
Paul Simon.
There's a lot. And he's coming back this year.
Lee, thank you so much. Oh, I'm going to have to check that out.
First time caller.
Oh, please be a regular caller, Lee. That was fantastic.
Yeah,
I love that.
I think the response to the concern about fixed pricing is just ensuring, or captive pricing, is just ensuring that you have the ability to bring food in. You know, like with the airport, you can bring pretty much anything in. I mean, if you, not anything.
You can bring anything
you can bring
as long as they don't find it.
Yeah, no, you can bring food into the airport. They don't have a problem. And if it's a liquid, it just has to be empty. And then once you get on the other side, you can fill up your water bottle. So to me, that seems to be the problem, not the government stepping in and going, we get to determine what the price is on all this. So, all right.
How does this fit with minimum wage? You got Paul from Golden going to join us about that in a sec.
Well,
we'll talk about that.
Jump right into this. Plus, we have Jason Ganal from GQ coming up. You're listening to the Jeff and Bill Show, News Talk 710, KNUS.
And The Answer in the Springs.